There's nothing like Mexico or France where like you have all the infrastructure is ready to welcome the tourist and you can go to a McDonald's or whatever. Here you're getting to a different world.
Off Gassing, a scuba podcast with host Nick Hogel. In this episode, I speak with explorer and founder of Sulawesi Dive Trek, Robin Cuesta. Robin is at the forefront of cave exploration around Indonesia. We speak about getting into the right mindset before a dive, logistic difficulties of remote exploration, current projects, what to look for in teammates, the path that led him to open the first full cave dive center in Indonesia, and the relaxed, slow-paced lifestyle in South-East Sulawesi. Please enjoy. Robin, how are you doing this evening?
Very good, thank you. What about you?
Not too bad. Just finished up work, my day job, and then my part-time, off-time work is to get the podcast up and running. So hopefully it's going pretty good. Been at it for about 3 months now, so it's not too bad. But so yeah, we'll just jump right in, man. My first question I wanted to ask you is, tell me, how and why you got into scuba diving, and then take me through the progression of where you're at today.
All right, so how did I get in scuba diving? I was on holidays in Cuba with my ex-girlfriend. That was like 2005 or 2006. And we were toward the end of the holidays and we were on this spot in the left part of the island. And she was like, oh, it's a nice place for scuba diving. You should try. And I was like, it's not really my thing. And she kind of pushed me and we tried. And I really loved it. Love at the first sight. So after that, we went back to France. And next holidays, we did our open water together. And from here, like every single holidays we had was focused on scuba diving. Went through so the open water was in the French Caribbean. Then the advanced in Mexico, rescue in Thailand. And then I left France for a 1-year sabbatical in 2012. And I went to Koh Tao in Thailand, did my dive master, fell in love, came back in France, sort out everything, give my apartment back, and started a career in scuba diving. So I first worked in Bali for a couple years, and then moved to where I'm now in Bao in South-East Sulawesi to start the cave diving exploration. And now it's 2023, and here I am.
That's awesome, man. You've been to a few destinations. Out of all of those destinations, which one would you say was like obviously I'm assuming now is probably where you want to be, but when you were progressing, was there one that kind of stood out amongst the others?
Ocean-wise, I would say that Indonesia is definitely one of the best countries in the world for the diversity of dive site and location. But I also remember Sipadan in East Borneo in Malaysia, and the French island of New Caledonia was also like amazing, very remote, very beautiful. But if I had to pick one place or at least one country, I would say like definitely Indonesia is the place to go if you like scuba diving in ocean and now in cave also.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to the cave in a minute. When you were progressing through, obviously you said you fell in love at the first breath. When you were progressing through, was it just kind of like, I'll take another class, see where I end up? Or did you have the end goal in mind to become a diving professional, or how did that all work out?
No, not really. So at the beginning, it was really like, so you get the open water to be able to dive during your holidays. And then on the next holidays, the guide tell you like you cannot go deeper than 18, so you should take the advance, and then you take the advance, and so on. And then when I was back in France at this time before leaving for Thailand, that's where I wanted to spend more time scuba diving, and I found that the option of taking your dive master while doing some kind of internship over a few months was a good occasion for me to progress and have some more underwater time. And I found this dive center in Kotao, Rocktopus, with very good vibe, very good instructor, and that's where I really okay, what I really realized oh, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do for my life.
Rocktopus did. I think they're. I'm not sure if this was recent, but they're a raid dive center right now, right?
Correct. They've been for quite a while actually. They've been pushing it since a few years. So when I joined this dive center, it was like a very small shop north of Seri Beach, and they really quickly turned into like this really big organization for a good reason because they were providing like quality training and like a very good vibe, good proximity between the instructor, the guide, and the customers. And now they mostly, if I'm not wrong, teach red course.
Oh, okay. Cool, cool. And you recently just went to raid, is that correct or no?
Yeah, correct. So my first tech diving training was there with one Australian guy, Chris Aslam, that then went working for Red, and he recently took over the Indonesian part. And he asked me if I was interested to join his team, and yeah, that's how it happened. And now, so I was his guest at some point, and now we're working together to promote and teach those courses.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I actually just took my first raid course earlier this year with Andy Davis out in the
Mhm.
Philippines. I did the advanced rec course, and that was a lot of fun.
I did this course also with him a few years ago.
Yeah, yeah, no, he's super knowledgeable. I went
Mm.
out there in November of last year to kind of meet with him and do like a not a skills set, but just kind of I just wanted to meet him, make sure me and him were a good fit, teacher student wise,
Mm.
and yeah, super cool guy. Ended up going back and hopefully I don't know if it'll be this year or early next year. I'd like to go back and kind of do another course with him. But yeah, the raid lineup, you guys have definitely gotten a few pretty big instructors that have been teaching or that I want to say that did the crossover or whatnot over to raid. So it's kind of cool to see that you're moving down that path.
Yeah. I mean, I like the system and the everything works online. The material are good quality, and also it's very easy to reach to the board. Like if you see any modification to do on the material, the exam. Dive agencies has a lot of materials, quiz, manual, exam, and you always find like some weird thing, some mistakes, some errors. And I found that with them it's very easy to port that to the higher board and make it correct it like very quickly.
So when you started to progress into the technical world, you want to talk about that a little bit? Was it something that just kind of, was it like a natural progression? Like, oh, let's try this, or how did that all unfold?
Yeah. So I mean, I was at this time like a dive master, and of course, I would see those guys going with all those tank and going deeper and longer, and I wanted to try also, and I had the chance to do this course, Advanced Nitrox and Deco Procedure with Chris. After the course, we did also like a Simon course, and he told me he just did his cave diving course with some French guy in France, so he put me in touch with him, and I went back to France the next year to do my course, and yeah, that's just the same process, you just want to go to get more and more and more and more, and it's never stopped. I'm still learning. I'm still taking course mostly every year. I'm trying to progress. I'm trying to get better in my diving, either for me or teaching wise. And yeah, that's I think how you stay like at the top of your game as an educator.
No, that's awesome. And speaking of side mount, I want to say congrats. You had the article on the who's who of side mount in the in depth article. So that must have been a pretty good feeling. When did you get into side mount, and did you know it was going to be your path as soon as you took the course, or?
I mean, took side mount when I was doing my dive master, so in 2013, and that was like kind of the same time when I did some twin set course. I mean, side mount is a tool for the job, and that's what fits perfectly what I'm doing now. So I have no really preference between twin set and side mount. I can see some situation when twin set would be way, way better and way easier to handle. While on the other hand, I see a lot of situation where side mount would be better. But yeah, I've chosen side mount as my favorite configuration. So did this course and then went to Subic with Andy also to do the technical side mount, advanced rec. And now it's in Indonesia, it's becoming very, very popular. So like a lot of people are taking side mount course. So I teach a lot of those courses also around here.
How did you? I mean, I know it's a pretty easy question or easy to answer question, especially for a lot of people. But so, how did you end up in Bali? Like, was it just a trip? I mean, I know a lot of people end up. But how'd you end up like teaching and living there for a while?
So after my gig in Thailand, I went for like like getting around Southeast Asia, stopped by Bali, fell in love, and the dive center I was diving with, offered me to come back and work with them if I get my instructor rating. So I went back to Thailand, took my instructor course, back to Bali, and start working for them.
Bali's definitely it's definitely a place that you can fall in love with.
Yeah.
I was just there well, it's nice now that I live in Malaysia. Like it's a lot easier for me to get to Indonesia. I think it's if there was a direct flight, I think it'd be about 3 hours. But usually we have to go through KL, which is not too bad, but adds a little bit of time. Well, speaking of that, so talk about the progression from becoming an instructor to going on to starting Sulawesi Dive Track.
So at this time, I was working in Bali for already a couple years, and I wanted to, change, see something different. So I wanted to go for cave diving because I was getting more and more into it after diving in France, in Mexico, in Thailand, in Philippines. And I looked for like information about cave diving in Indonesia and couldn't really find anything. And I had the chance to meet Mark Cray that recently had been to Sulawesi for a few days to scout, and he told me that he saw a big potential there. So I took my gear, I took everything, packed it, and moved to Bao and start exploring. And I found quite a few caves there. And then, so it was like August 2016, so 7 years ago. And I quickly realized that the potential was great. So I decided to go through my full cave instructor path. So it took me a few years, and I opened the business 3 years later in 2019, October. Well, not the best timing, COVID-wise, but yeah, so far so good. We survived.
No, that's awesome, man. Seems like you guys are doing really well. So, opening up the business was that? I mean, obviously, that's probably a pretty. I don't think you wouldn't have thought you would have been there when you took your open water course. But like, what are some of the challenges that you faced?
The first challenge I faced was that when I decided to open the business, I was broke because I burned everything I had in exploration. So I've started to look for people that will help me to invest in the business. And that's when I met Antoine, that's running Bali Dive Trek. And I pitched my idea, and it was like directly like, okay, let's do it. So he didn't really waited or hesitated, and it provided me some money, some equipment, and also the administrative structure of his dive center to be able to create mine, which is a branch of Bali Dive Trek. So Sulawesi Dive Trek is the same company, so it's just a branch.
What about like the day-to-day operations? So, I mean, you're obviously living there full time now. Is there tough to kind of get stuff imported in? I'm sure it's probably can't be easy.
That's super difficult. So it took me a lot of time to get all the logistic and find employees and like design a typical diving day because it's like a very remote area where there's almost no tourism. So it's a one-man show. I mean, it used to be a one-man show. Now I have people working with me. But yeah, that was very, very difficult. Everything has to be imported and it takes time. And I basically need to be self-reliant here. I cannot, if something breaks, I cannot bring it to the shop and come back a week later and it's fixed. So I had to learn to fix compressor, equipment, booster, everything. And it took me a while, but now I think we have a pretty smooth operation and things are getting better and better. And so far, I think all my guests has been pretty satisfied with the prestation we offer here.
Before getting into this side of it, is it just kind of learning on the fly? Like, okay, the compressor, something went wrong. I got to figure out how to fix it. Do you have resources? Because I'm sure that's got to be difficult, just not being able to run to the store and grab the parts that you need.
I mean, I've always been interested about how to. I was already like proficient in fixing regulator and basic scuba equipment, and I have an engineer background also, so I kind of like to see all those things work. But yeah, of course, it was quite a challenge, and I went back to Bali in a compressor repair shop, spent a little bit of time there, and then with experience, and when you're facing the situation, the thing is broken and you need to make it work. Well, you make it work at some point.
Well, awesome. So the exploration, you want to talk a little bit of that side about the exploring that you're doing over there?
Oh yeah, sure. I could talk hours. So exploration. So what is exploration first? Is like so we're looking for a new place where we can dive, but that's just so the process is like you look for those places. You can use a lot of different information, geological map, your feeling, information from local communities, and all that stuff. And then you have those targets, so you go there first without the equipment, you have a look, maybe you just take your mask, okay, it looks promising, so you come back later with equipment and you realize that there's nothing actually, and that's what happened mostly 90% of the time. And then come the easy part where you dive, it's nice. You take a few pictures, you post it on Instagram, you're super proud. But then after that come the hardest part, which is like surveying, mapping, taking like some proper data that can be used after for like scientific purpose. Exploration is not only what we're seeing and what we're showing on social media, it's way, way more. But of course, at the beginning, and that's I think how everybody starts, you just go, you dive, you come back, you go home, you tell your friend, oh, I found a cave, and you're super proud. But then it gets deeper and deeper than that. And at some point, the diving part becomes almost like, like a detail, just a small part of the whole process. Yeah, that's something I really like, and that's really what drives me here. I'm on holiday since yesterday, so I had a group from China just before, and tomorrow I'm leaving to Java Island to do some cave exploration on my free time.
No, that's awesome. Is there anything you can talk about the Java expedition?
Yeah, sure. So Java is the most populated island of Indonesia, and if I'm not wrong, is the most populated island in the world with the highest density. And they have a lot of karstic areas. So karstic area are area with carbonate rock where you very likely to have some cave and exploration. That's where like the caving, I'm talking dry caving, the caving activity starts in Indonesia in the 80s. So in Java, but also in South Sulawesi around Makassar. And you had a lot of international teams that went there in the 80s, the 90s, and started to collaborate and train Indonesian caver and did some cave diving also. And yeah, there's a very, very big potential. So Indonesian also have started to explore a little bit on this area. So I'm just like going there, and I have a lot of friends also that dry caver on this area. So they always send me like picture of those spring and those dry cave. There's water here. You should come. Blah blah blah. And now I had like a few days off, so I decided to just move there and see what's happening.
Just because I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are curious too. But talk about like the mindset, like what goes through your mind when you get to an area, you see a body of water, however small, however big, and no one's been in there before. You're like, okay, I'm about to jump in there. what's going through your mind? Like talk to me about that.
Ah, that's a tough question. I'm always like very excited when I see this, but what I really really enjoy actually is the process before that, you know. So it always starts with someone telling me like, "Oh, I've seen this body of water and this looks promising." So then we start to organize. Okay, so where is it? How can we organize logistic? And then I usually go there and meet the local community. So that's mostly always a dry caver. So there is a very dense network of cave explorers in Indonesia. They mostly always walk through those what they call like mapala, so mahasiswa pecinta alam, which you will translate into nature lover student, and those are clubs that are related to universities. So that's where all the magic happens in Indonesia when it comes to exploration, and not only cave, but cave, mountain, so all the outdoor thing. And then so I have this contact, prepare my gear, go there, meet those people, and everybody is always like super excited because of course cave diving is a very new thing in Indonesia. And so we spend like nights talking, sharing ideas, sharing techniques, and then we prepare everything. We go there together, and yeah, then come the last step where I go, I take my tank and I dive. And what I feel here, I always like a little bit of, you know, like stress, a little bit of fear of the unknown. But I think it's pretty natural, and that's what keeps me alive also. So I'm always very careful about what I'm doing, always analyzing everything, trying not to push myself. So if I have, you know, my little voice telling me like something smells bad, I just turn around, come back, and then reconsider the thing and maybe go back and try again. So, you know, a mix of excitement, stress, fear, and then when you do your exploration and you surface, so you have like your head like go through the surface and you have the fresh air coming in your face. It's just like a magical feeling, you know. So you did what you like, and you have all those people that are waiting for you, and they're all like part of the thing, you know. Even if I'm usually diving solo, it's always a teamwork. So it's always a big thing, like, and people that really do this out of passion. So it's never like they never have the interest of, okay, we're gonna get money out of this or that. And then you come back, and you know they always like ask you, so what did you find? What did you find? And it's very hard because the first minute you come back to the surface, you have this, you know, you're still down there, and it's very hard to communicate, and it's very hard to receive all those input from outside. So it always take me a few minutes, and the longer was the dive, the more time I need to come back on Earth. But now most of people I'm exploring with regularly, they know about that, so they always like let me know, surface, remove my gear, sit down, have my shit together, and then I can share with them and show picture. Oh, it's amazing, blah blah blah. So yeah, that's pretty good feeling.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So when you go to, so this is obviously a new place that you're going to explore. What are some like must bring pieces of equipment? And then also when you get there, like are they carting in tanks from afar? Like how does that all work out?
Okay, so that's a very good question, and actually I just finished packing my stuff. The specific village I'm going now, there's already a few guys, my friend Rinto, Bona, they went there and already did some exploration. But yeah, basically, mostly you need to secure a compressor and tanks. I have mine, and I usually when I'm travel not too far, I travel with my own thing. But Java is pretty far away. It's 2 flights away from Bao, and it's like around two days and a half of boat. So it's not really possible to take my own compressor. But through those club, the Mapala, they always find way. So they either have a Mapala club that's doing diving, so you can borrow the compressor, then tank, or you can go to the firefighter, the army, the search and rescue, and they will mostly always be very keen to lend you some equipment. I never had like any. I always found like people like very enthusiastic and trying their best to help me and provide me what I need. So yeah, so this is the main part, like compressor and tanks. And then everything else I bring with me, like my diving equipment, line, survey equipment, spares, all this kind of stuff. So now I'm traveling with around like 50 kilogram of equipment, and I'm depressed about thinking about the airport and the check-in process. And it's always something. It's always a big thing.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure, especially when you get to those really remote places, kind of like what you were speaking about a little bit earlier. If you don't bring it, then most likely you're not going to be able to get it there, or I mean, the chances are probably pretty low, I would think.
Well, the thing is also, it's as in Indonesia is a very, very popular diving destination. There is mostly always a dive center not too far, so you can always find ways, borrow tanks. And what's something that works well in Indonesia is sending stuff. There's boats, there's always ways. So I could be like stuck somewhere and call a friend and, oh, can you send me this and that? And they always have a way to reach your place, but it needs time. So when you explore here, you need to be very patient and you need to have time. So you cannot really like go for 3 days and expect like day one, then two, then three, I'm going to dive and that's it. Because that's anything can happen anytime, and you could be stuck for 4 days because you're waiting this piece of equipment that broke. So you need a lot of time. And I remember when I reached Bao the first time, it took me more than a week to get everything ready and do my first dive. So you need to organize this and that, and the relation to time in Indonesia is very different from what we know in our Western world. So like taking, and I'm pretty sure you probably have the same in Malaysia, but that's coming from like the Javanese culture, how they count the time. It's all different. I'm not saying is worse, and in many ways, actually, I prefer their way of doing it. But like telling someone, okay, so let's meet tomorrow at this time, it's not really something happening. And you can find this also in the language. So a same word can describe tomorrow, which in English, tomorrow, it's in a 24 hours frame. But tomorrow, the same words like besok can be in a couple days, 3 days, 4 days, who knows? And at the beginning, especially when you move from Europe here, you're like getting crazy about that, and then you just accept it, and I find it's a very cool and relaxed way of living actually. But you just need to rewire everything in your brain. And now I'm super patient, and when I come back in France and I see people when they're queuing for anything, and when they wait a few minutes, they start to be crazy and like, oh, what's happening? It's a scandal, blah blah blah. And me, I'm like super relaxed. I'm like, yeah, that's life. Okay, get my book and read, and things gonna happen at some point.
Definitely completely understand that, because yeah, the sense of time is very different out here. And yeah, I don't look at it as a negative thing. It was just more of an adjustment for me to come out here, especially the industry that I'm in. It was, yeah, the if they say a meeting starts at 8, probably 8:15, 8:30 realistically. People start moseying in, start showing up at 8, and then the actual meeting,
Yeah.
maybe starts at 8:30. But no, that's super funny, and yeah, it's definitely this part of the world, but it is very relaxing. I do agree with that, because once you kind of let go and you can just enjoy it, then and embrace it for what it is, it's definitely a funny feeling. But no, that's really funny that you mentioned. My next question: when you started, I don't know if it came before or after, but when you started exploring more and you started kind of pushing and going further, was that when you went down the path of a rebreather?
Yes, it was. When you explore cave, so I always start with I usually start with like a pair of very small tank, like 3 liters or 4 liters. I just go have a look. Okay, that sounds promising. Then I take my SAT, my 11 liters, and I penetrate using very conservative gas rules. So like usually 1/6, 1/7 of my tank, and then when I have a feeling of the cave, I push a little bit, and then add one more tank, two more tank, And yeah, when you go over like four tanks in Silmont, rebreather becomes a pretty good tool. So I really went into rebreather specifically for cave exploration. But then another challenge that I didn't foresee appears. It's like you have your rebreather and you need to take bailout tank. And the further you go, the more bailout tank. And then at some point you try to avoid that, but now instead of four tanks, you're wearing like one rebreather and four tanks. So that's why recently I started to work a little bit into a dual rebreather, where we have like the bailout is supported by a second unit, and so you kind of minimize also your overall shape, increase safety during the dive. Yeah, so I'm just starting. Okay, it's like but that's something that's been going on for a while, and actually, in our dive center in Bali, that's a course that Antoine teach. So it's recently been released by INTD as an official certification and course. So he will have like way more experience than me. But me, I'm using this very specifically in the cave environment. And so far, I've been mostly doing like how would you say, like simulation dive. So where I carry the whole thing, even though I don't really need it. So I always stay like not far away or like in not so challenging cave. But yeah, that's quite a challenging thing because you have a lot of things to that happen and a lot of like protocol and connection and those kind of things. So I can't tell really much about it. I just did like a pretty big dive with this configuration recently in one of the cave around my area at a depth of 80 meter, and yeah, it went pretty well. But I had my main unit, and I used the second rebreather that I dropped on the line as a backup. So it was not really like a dual rebreather, like where you managing and carrying the two rebreather with you during the whole dive. It was more like one rebreather and one bailout rebreather that I would leave in the line in case of emergency.
Do you want to talk about that dive a little bit? Because you were trying to push the obviously the basically explore new territory in that area.
So yeah, we have this very deep cave around here, which name is Oemamba. So it's like basically a lake with a very big sinkhole, a very big drop, and we dove. Well, I dive there like very frequently with my guests at more reasonable depths, of course. And we dove it like a few years ago with a friend of mine, Paul from Thailand, that you may know. And we went to a depth of 72 or 75 meters, something like that. And and on the last few months, I've saw, the more you go back in the cave, the more you can see it, and sometimes you see it with a different angle, and even though you've been there like hundred of time, you can realize, oh, this maybe this new passage, this new tunnel. And I saw this tunnel a few months ago, and I decided to go have a look. And that's when I organized this dive during my days off. I was expecting going down to 100 meter, but it didn't really went that way. And it was once I got closer from this tunnel, it was actually way more restricted than what I saw. And I started to go down, and it was getting tighter and tighter, and it was like a very vertical position like that. Rock were falling, visibility was getting very bad. So I stopped around 80 meters. I think it's still going, but that's kind of a ongoing process. You go there, you get a few meter, and then you come back, and the next time you go back with more experience and push. And yeah, you have to know on especially at those depths and this environment, you need to know when to turn back. Moreover, if you're diving solo, nobody's gonna help you if anything arrives. So yeah, you need to be very careful about that. It was still a super nice dive, and I'm very proud and happy about what I did. And I will for sure come back there one of those days.
Are most of the explorations that you're doing are they mostly all solo, or how's that work out?
But at the beginning, yeah, because I was basically the only one doing cave diving in the area. And then local divers started to get into it. So they've been trained by Paul at that time and they started to explore also. And we did a few projects together. And then I started to train people and they've joined on exploration. And now there's a community growing in Indonesia. So it's always nicer, to be with people. Sometimes when I dive solo, I do this crazy exploration. I end up, I surface, and I'm like, yeah, well, I have no one to share it with. It's kind of sad.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so it's always good to be with friends, and of course, I will also always have a friend on at the surface. But now, when we're talking specifically about the diving part, I feel safer and more comfortable being alone because now all my brain capacity and my brain time can be focused on my own safety. And there is this time where your stress, when you get very comfortable in diving and experience, your stress shifts from stressing about yourself to stressing about other. You know, I don't want to have this thing to deal with in exploration. So if I go explore with someone, I want to be sure 100% that this guy is going to be strong and solid and is not going to be a liability for me. That's an environment when you cannot afford to panic, you cannot afford to lose your shit. Sometimes it's better to be alone. And it's very hard to know because you can be a very good diver and very good, very experienced in certain environments. But when you underground in a cave, it's all changed. You never know the first time you're gonna face your proper zero visibility, your proper lost line, all those things that you learn in course and you train for it. But when it happens in real life, it's totally different, and you never know how you're gonna face the situation. And there is a very good chapter about that in the INTD manual about survival. How does one individual react when he's facing like a deathly situation? So some people they can manage to they quickly get their shit together and apply a set of protocol they learn. Most people they will be like not really knowing what happened, and they will take time, and then they will have this fly or fight syndrome. So they could be dealing with the thing properly or get totally crazy, and some people they just not designed for that. And that's something also us as educator and teacher we need to identify during the course. Okay, it's total cave diving is not something that's for everybody. Of course, now we have like a whole set of protocol, and let's say it's a pretty safe activity when you know your limit. But it's not necessary to put yourself through that if it's not something you like, and you have to try to know that. I know that solo diving is controversial in many 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 ways, and some people will say that it is one of the main root cause of accident. But in many many situations, being solo is actually safer. And I'm thinking about like low visibility cave or very restricted cave. When I go in the restriction with someone, my main fear is not getting stuck or whatever. It's like, what if the guy behind me, so we get inside the restriction and the guy behind me gets stuck and panic, and now I cannot turn around and exit the thing. So the stress is not about the restriction itself. That's something I can manage, I can deal with. But knowing that there's someone behind me that I don't know or don't trust, that's something that's really frightened me. I'm terrified by that. So when I'm with so that's why I usually do exploration with people I know, or with people that are more experienced than me, that I know they've been doing some serious stuff, and that's how the only way I can feel safe in a team. Of course, I'm not talking about like a holiday cave diving in Mexico with friends, where it's always better to have a buddy on this situation for sure. A buddy provides you a backup brain, can assist you, and it still increase your chance of survival if something happen. Even if it's small, it's still a better chance. But on the very, very specific field of cave exploration, not always.
So, what is something that you do to prep to see if you're going to be compatible with somebody in a cave exploration? Or what are some of the things that you do to prep? And then also, if you don't mind answering this question, what are some red flags that you see that you're like, okay, this is probably not the person I want to go into the cave with? I know you kind of explained some of them already.
See, I think I have a pretty simple answer. As I said, cave exploration is an adventure. So it's not only the diving, it's everything that comes before and after. So that's time you're going to spend with someone, with a team. So my first thing is that even before thinking about the diving skill or whatever, is like the general feeling with the person. Is it someone I want to hang out with? If you don't have this feeling, if you just don't connect, I wouldn't even try to push more. The guy could be the best diver in the world. I don't care because the diving is going to be like maybe 1 hour out of 1 week of time. So even if this 1 hour is amazing, I don't want to spend like 6 days and 23 hours with a pain in the ass. So that's the first thing. And now the diving skill, you cannot really lie when you dive. So you do a few. When I explore with someone, I mostly always have been diving with him in different environments. So I know how he would behave. And what I really expect to someone is someone that can say no. I don't feel I can do that. So that's for me is a green flag. Even though, well, we may miss this dive for no reason, but that's something that will really make me trust this person by opposition of someone that will be like super like like yo I'm the best, like I'm fearless and I have no stress. And so yeah, that's all those human, mostly those human skills that I would like to have in a buddy. So someone that's not an adrenaline junkie, not someone that want to show off. Of course, we all show off, and it's part of the game. And you can see my Instagram is full of pictures of me passing restriction and blah 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 and pretending I'm a badass cave diver because that's part of the game, the business. But when you're in the field, that doesn't count anymore. That's now it's like you and me doing something that's pretty high risk. Personally, I don't want to die in a cave. That's for sure. I don't want to die diving. And I expect my buddy to have the same feeling about life. If the guy is like reckless and fearless and is like, whatever, if I just stay down there, I stay down there. That's not someone I want to go with because I enjoy life.
No, that's a great answer, man. Yeah, no, that's a huge thing because obviously I don't explore, I don't do any of that sort of stuff, but I generally feel the same way about instructors. That's why I like to meet instructors firsthand because it's like you could be the best instructor in the world, but if we don't click, then there's something kind of there. No, that's a great answer, man. Couple last questions. So you have a big exploration project coming up towards the end of this year that you're a part of. Do you want to talk, or I don't know if you can talk about your role and what's going on there?
The project is taking place in one of the cave I've found and explored in the last few years, which is so far the longest underwater cave I've found in Indonesia. And so it's like an exploration project pushing the exploration. So I kind of reached my limit of what I can do as a solo diver, which is like so the cave now is around 3.5 kilometers long. So that's like 2 to 3 hours of penetration. And I still have this, like I was telling you a little bit sooner that you need to know your limits. And of course, you can push them little by little. But so far, when I'm over like 3 hours away from the exit alone, I can feel that my brain is starting to fry. And now I'm like on the edge. And that's not a good feeling. And I feel that if I'm on this area very far from the exit and something happen, I could lose my mind. Now that's where like having a team of very experienced diver comes very handy. And if you look at the list of divers, are probably almost more experienced than me. So it's a great honor to be able to dive and explore with them. And we're gonna push the exploration hopefully, but we never know also. So at the end of line on the next turn, it could be done over. We never know how far can go a cave, and that's something also everybody has to understand. Everybody that joined the team. Of course, we all expect to carry on for kilometers and and we're gonna bring like DPV and rebreather and stuff, but the fact is that there's always a great chance that on the next turn the cave stop. But that's not the point anyway, because the point of this expedition is to also create a scientific baseline about what we can find in this aquifer. So the biodiversity, the speleogenesis, so how the cave has been formed, hydrology, what's the quantity of water, what's the quality of water, and so much more scientific discipline. So cave diving is something that connects a lot of different science: geology, hydrology, archaeology, biology, sedimentology, and science that we don't even know the name. Um, but yeah, so through this exploration, we were going to bring together a team of international scuba diver with scientists and a dry caver. And all those people are going to work together to establish exactly what do we have under our feet. And based on that, we hope also to help to develop the area and protect the area and develop the cave diving and everything. And yeah, that's a very, very great challenge. That's really something I'm looking forward to.
No, that's awesome, and I very much look forward to see what unfolds from this whole project. Is there like a set time frame? Like, is it like we start here and then just keep going until we're done, or this is our window? How does that usually called?
The logistic for this kind of expedition is really, really big part of the thing. And I can tell about that because I'm in charge of logistic on site. You have so much things to do. So find the funding and then contact the dive equipment company and the local authorities and the scientists and put everything together is a really complicated thing because you have all those people from different world, different culture, and you need to make them talk together, diver, scientists, official government, police, and whatever. So yeah, of course we have a time frame of 3 weeks, and yeah, that's gonna be like the let's say the easiest part are gonna be those 3 weeks, but what comes behind that, the organization, the logistic, is a real. I never expected that actually. It's my first big expedition, and when I was appointed as a head of logistic, I was like, whatever, I'm gonna have to, just make sure we have some coffee after the dive and buy a few beers so everybody gets happy. But now it's like a lot of work, and I cannot even talk for the other person of the team. They do even worse thing because they're like in Europe and they're like negotiating with all those funding stuff, the dive equipment, making contract, and it's like that's a lot of work.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's a ton that goes into that, and like I said, man, no, I very much look forward to seeing what happens and what all unfolds with that. It's exciting stuff what you guys are doing. All right, and then my last few questions, and I know we kind of spoke about this kind of throughout the podcast. I'm a person that's listening to the this episode, and I want to come visit out where at Sulawesi Dive Trek. What can I expect? What do you offer? What kind of things? I mean, you offer courses, you offer fun diving, cave diving. Do you do ocean diving? Do you want to just kind of talk a little bit about that?
So we offer basically every kind of diving: ocean, cave, open circuit, rebreather, shallow, deep, try mix, whatever you want. What you should expect is like going to a place where tourism is still like very low. So it's an authentic place. So, there's nothing like Mexico or France where like you have all the infrastructure is ready to welcome the tourist and you can go to a McDonald's or whatever. Here you're getting to a different world, and it's that's what's very interesting also because you're still in this place, where you can see people in their own environment with their own culture, and it's very different. It's really like an adventure. So of course you have the diving part, and when you dive, you have your tanks and you do whatever you have to. But all the things on the side are like really are making like an amazing experience, in my opinion. So it's not only the diving part, it's all what goes around. So you're going into a different world, different universe, and that's super interesting. Now, as well with the Daft Trek, we have the advantage of cave that we explored or our friends from here explored. So we really know the place. And yeah, I mean, I'm doing cave diving. It's my whole life, you know. I'm doing cave diving as a job, as a passion, as a hobby. So it's not only like a way to put food in my plate. You know, it's what I really like to do. And I hope that when I'm teaching or when I'm getting people, that's something I try to transmit to my guests.
Awesome, man. No, I very, very much look forward to coming out and visiting when I can. Also, my last question for you before I let you go is what advice, I mean, I know you, once again, we've kind of spoke about some stuff here, but what advice would you give? I sometimes I frame the question to your younger self or frame the question like, what advice would you give to somebody that is just getting into technical, just getting into overhead? You know, they see all these Instagram posts. They're like, that's the route that I want to go. They, you know, what advice would you give to that person?
Very simple, seek proper training. That's like the key of everything. Have a good training, seek a good instructor where you click with, the thing you said before, because everything then is going to be based on what you learned on this course. So I know it's hard to say that, but don't look at the price, don't look at how difficult it's going to be to go there. Just pick people that are doing this on a daily basis, you know, so not only teaching class, and so they need to do this in their free time, you know. So when they free, they go doing the same activity. The second thing is also take your time. So it's no need to rush through the different certification. Always when you finish your course, take a step back. Okay, of course you're certified full cave and you're able to do this and that, but take a step back and learn. Keep learning with other people. Try to go diving with people more experienced. Feel free to share your mistake. That's a very important thing. You know, cave diving community and technical diving community is a very, you know, there's a lot of ego and a lot of, you know, it's a very competitive business, and we always try to look at our best, but actually that's a very unhealthy thing. It's really, really good to share your mistake with people. You know, learn from other people's mistake and keep an open mind. You know, not everybody is perfect. We all do mistake, and that's how you learn. And you know, most of the safety protocol we have now in place in cave diving are based on people that died, and then people told us their story and say, okay, that's what was that and that and that was what went wrong, and now that's how we can correct the thing. And of course, last thing is you need to enjoy what you're doing. Okay, so don't just do cave diving because it looks cool and because it feels like the natural, the ultimate progression in your scuba diver career. It's not. It's a totally different path that you may or may not take. Think about it. It's something that requires commitment in terms of time, money, equipment. Just kind of weight everything and see if it's that for you, if it is for you. I would still suggest everybody can take a cavern course or cavern intro course, even though you feel it's not for you, because you will learn a lot and that will deeply modify the way you're going to dive later, even in the ocean, the way you're going to assess risk, the way you're going to assess your own safety, your equipment management, your gas strategy, your teamwork. But that's a super interesting activity, and I will be really, really happy to answer any question to anybody if they really want, if they want to get into cave diving. And that's what I do each time. Each time someone contact me and send me a mail, oh yeah, I want to do the full cave, blah 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 blah. I always have very long chat with them. What is their experience? Why do they want to do cave diving? Do they really realize that cave diving is this and that and that and that? So of course, I'm not trying to push them away. On the contrary, you know, I'm running a business, and the more customer I have, and the better it is. But I just want to make sure that people know what they're doing and what they're starting.
Awesome, man. No, that's great, man. And yeah, I'll definitely leave links in the description so people could get a hold of you. I really, really appreciate you coming on to the podcast. It's been great to chat with you.
Same here, was a real pleasure, and I hope we're gonna meet again soon.
Off-gassing, a scuba podcast.